Kievan had always believed that the abandoned mining colony on Kepler 442b would be his refuge from the chaos of the settled worlds. The rust-colored plains stretched endlessly beneath twin suns, broken only by the skeletal remains of extraction rigs that had fallen silent decades ago. Here, he could conduct his xenobiology research in peace, cataloging the strange silicon-based microorganisms that thrived in the planet's mineral-rich soil. That peace shattered the moment he found her. The crash site was impossible to miss, a smoking crater half a kilometer wide, the impact so recent that the glassy edges of melted rock still radiated heat. Kievan approached cautiously, his hazard suit sensors screaming warnings about exotic radiation signatures. At the crater's center lay what remained of a vessel unlike anything in human-design databases. Its hull bore geometric patterns that seemed to shift and recalibrate even as he watched, composed of materials that his scanner simply labeled as unknown alloy, quantum-locked. And beside the wreckage, she lay dying. Her form was humanoid enough to trigger Kievan's instinctive empathy, yet alien in ways that made his scientific mind reel. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed weakly, fading from brilliant azure to dim gray. 4 arms lay twisted at unnatural angles, and crystalline structures protruded from her shoulders, either technological implants or biological features. Kievan couldn't tell. Purple blood pooled beneath her, steaming as it made contact with Kepler's atmosphere. Structural integrity critical, his suit's AI announced dispassionately. Subject exhibiting multi-system failure. Estimated time to expiration, 14 minutes. Kievan didn't hesitate. He had spent 5 years in emergency xenomedical training before abandoning the corporate labs for independent research. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, deploying his portable medkit and hoping that human medical technology would be compatible enough to matter. The first challenge was stopping the hemorrhaging. He applied synthetic tissue sealant to the worst of her wounds, watching as the foam expanded and hardened, buying precious time. Her blood chemistry was wildly different from anything he'd encountered, a complex cocktail of metallic compounds and what appeared to be self-replicating nanomachines. When he attempted to establish an intravenous line, the needle melted. "Damn it," Kievan muttered, switching tactics. He activated his medkit's universal stabilizer, a broad-spectrum device designed to support multiple alien physiologies by maintaining cellular cohesion at the quantum level. It was experimental technology, banned in most sectors due to its unpredictable effects. As the stabilizer's field enveloped her, the alien's eyes snapped open. They were eyes like galaxies, literally. Kievan found himself staring into twin nebulae of swirling colors, depths that seemed to contain actual stars. For a moment, he felt her consciousness touch his, a presence so vast and ancient that it made him feel like a candle flame before a supernova. Then she spoke, and somehow, impossibly, he understood. "You save me." Her voice resonated directly in his mind, bypassing sound entirely. "Human, impossible." "Don't try to move," Kievan said, knowing she could understand his intent if not his words. "Your injuries are severe. I'm doing what I can." Over the next 6 hours, Kievan performed what could only be described as miracle work with primitive tools. He realigned her fractured skeletal structure using graviton splints, rerouted damaged neural pathways with biosynthetic webbing, and even managed to restart one of her 3 hearts using a modified defibrillator. All the while, she watched him with those cosmic eyes, her consciousness a silent observer of his efforts. As her condition stabilized, Kievan learned her name, Jennifer, or rather, that was the closest human phonetic approximation to a designation that carried meanings of eternal flame, first among billions, and death's architect. "You have shown mercy," she communicated as Kievan administered the last of his medical supplies. "This is unexpected. Your kind has a reputation." "Yeah, well, I'm not much for reputations," Kievan replied, sitting back exhausted. I'm a scientist, not a politician. When I see someone hurt, I help. Simple as that. Simple? Jennifer's mental voice carried something that might have been amusement. Nothing is simple, human, especially not this. Over the following days, as Jennifer recovered in Kievan's research station, he learned fragments of her story. She was careful with details, but the pieces she shared painted a picture of galactic politics so complex and dangerous that humanity's petty territorial disputes seemed like children's games. She was an empress, she admitted, ruler of the Gentare Empire, a civilization that spanned 17,000 star systems. Her empire was ancient when humanity's ancestors were still learning to nap flint. The ship she'd crashed in wasn't a warship but an interceptor, fleeing from what she called the Consolidation, a coalition of lesser empires that had finally united against her rule. Why would they unite against you? Kievan asked one evening as they shared a meal. He'd synthesized nutrients compatible with her biology, another minor miracle of human ingenuity. Jennifer's bioluminescent patterns flickered in what he'd learned to recognize as her equivalent of a bitter smile. Because I am what your people would call a conqueror. For 6,000 years I have brought order to the chaos. Systems that resisted I pacified. Species that threatened the stability I eliminated. She paused, those galaxy eyes fixing on him. I am, by your moral standards, a monster. Kievan absorbed this quietly. How many? Worlds, 372 subjugated. Species rendered extinct, 41. Individual deaths attributable to my orders. She made a gesture with one of her healing arms. Your numerical systems lack the vocabulary. Any reasonable person would have recoiled, would have seen the alien before him as the genocidal tyrant she claimed to be. But Kievan had spent too long studying the universe to believe in simple morality. And the alternative? War eternal, Jennifer said. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Kievan. It is a garden that must be violently pruned or it consumes itself in fire. I have been that gardener. As Jennifer's strength returned, so did her capabilities. Kievan discovered she could interface with technology in ways that seemed like magic. His research station's systems upgraded themselves under her touch, becoming more efficient, more powerful. She could manipulate matter at the molecular level, restructuring the station's defenses with casual thoughts. You could have left days ago, Kievan realized. You're healed enough. Yes, Jennifer acknowledged, but I am curious. Why did you save me truly? You knew I was dangerous. Your instruments would have told you that much. Kievan considered the question carefully. Because the universe is vast and cold and full of death, every act of kindness is an act of rebellion against entropy. I saved you because not saving you would have meant giving up a little bit of what makes us human, compassion, even for our enemies. Especially for our enemies, Jennifer corrected gently. This is why your species fascinates me, Kievan. You are young, barely 1,000 years into space, and yet you cling to these principles that older races abandoned eons ago. On the 7th day, Jennifer's pursuers arrived. Kievan's sensors detected the fleet first, 37 warships materializing at the system's edge, each one a cathedral of destruction bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The lead vessel broadcast a message in 17 languages, one of them being human standard. Surrender the tyrant Empress Jennifer and your world will be spared. Protect her and you share her fate. Kievan stood on the station's observation deck, staring at the approaching fleet, then at Jennifer, who stood beside him with perfect calm. You should give me up, she said simply. It is the logical choice. Instead, Kievan activated the station's communications array. This is Research Station Delta 7. Jennifer is under my protection as a medical patient. You want her, you'll have to go through me. The fleet's response was to open fire. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. Jennifer moved to the station's central core and placed all 4 hands on the interface panel. Her bioluminescence blazed like a newborn star, and suddenly, the entire station transformed. The mining colony's dormant defensive systems roared to life, but amplified 1,000-fold by Jennifer's capabilities. Shields that could barely stop micrometeorites now deflected antimatter torpedoes. Mining lasers became weapons that could carve through Capital's ship armor. And Jennifer herself became something terrifying. Her consciousness distributed across every system, fighting with the precision of a galaxy-spanning empire's greatest tactical mind. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, half the attacking fleet drifted as debris, and the remainder fled into hyperspace. Not a single shot had touched the station. In the silence that followed, Kevin found Jennifer in the core, her form dimmed, exhausted. "You called me a monster," she said quietly. "You were not wrong. This is what I am, a weapon refined over millennia." "Maybe," Kevin replied, kneeling beside her. "But even weapons can choose when to fire. You could have destroyed them completely. You let them run." "Because a human showed me mercy when he had no reason to," Jennifer said. "And I am curious to see if such mercy can exist on a larger scale." 3 days later, Jennifer's own fleet arrived. 100 vessels of such advanced design that they made the attackers look like wooden ships. But she sent them away with a command that shocked her commanders. "The war ends. Begin negotiations for confederation, not conquest." As she prepared to leave, Jennifer turned to Kevin one final time. "You saved my life, human. In doing so, you may have saved countless others. The consolidation sought to depose me to install something worse, a council of tyrants instead of one empress. Now perhaps we can find a third path." "Will it work?" Kevin asked. "I do not know," Jennifer admitted. "But I learned something from you, Kevin, that sometimes the illogical choice is the right one, that mercy is not weakness but a different kind of strength." She placed one hand on his shoulder, a gesture of respect among her people. "The galaxy will remember that a human on a forgotten world changed the course of history with nothing but a med kit and compassion." As her ship rose into the twin-sun sky, Kevin returned to his research, knowing that the universe had just become a little less cold, a little less certain in its cruelty. He had saved one life. Perhaps in the end, that would save billions more.